in my second home, Philadelphia. We spent a lot of time here in the 90s bringing this thing to birth in the incubation stage. We had to get through a lot of esoteric information back then to bring a lot of this information forth. Pretty much now what we've been doing, especially since the 2000s, is basically what we've been doing is we've been basically simmering on the front burner. See, the back burner you can just simmer around, but on the front burner you got to burn. So what happened is in this particular concept of the people who've been in this for a minute, to give you an update, a certain group of us in the 90s had to go through, and we had to unravel all of these particular hidden mysteries that was not only hidden from time, but hidden from the government or the powers that be also. So we had to basically get through just thousands and thousands of pages and books of information. Then in the 2000s, basically, we became entities. And so we basically just went into our own thing and started being the gods. Whether that be chaos or whether that be whatever the deal is. And that's the way this thing is. You get to a certain level and then you have to become that. And you have to become that. And so in so many words, that was the legacy of the Church of Philadelphia and other people around the country that was a part of that whole thing. We've had numerous conferences and stuff. So in so many words, in retrospect, what we're dealing with now, have been dealing with recently, is not so much of the ongoing research based on the materials and the doctrines, because we covered that for the first 9 years of it. What we're dealing with now is basically the research and the living essence of the gods and the spirit world. And sometimes, even when you don't even know there's a spirit world around you, there's always a spirit world. It's also, like I said, we did a lot of our work with Sister Delilah over on what's that? Shoe Avenue or Shoe Street? Shoe Avenue. So we did a lot of the work in the 90s there. We used to come, I think I used to come up here every other month. And also, so a lot of information came. Sister Sharon back there was a powerful entity. One of the ones that would speed read and access the books, and between that whole crew, a lot of rituals are done and a lot of things on getting the bearings in how this stuff was made. I met a good friend, Brother Bossisi, Brother Bossisi, which in so many words bought every book that I told him to buy. Even some I didn't buy my damn self. But so we had that whole thing going and all, and to let you know that the whole God self is, he went on until he got hit by a car and proved that we are all unbreakable. So in so many words, he got hit by a car and didn't know he was hit and survived it with no bones broken or nothing. And so in so many words, he was the crash dummy for all of us that's actually unbreakable. Now it's ironic here because I met a brother in New York, the brother Shabazz, that I'm dealing with now, had some of the same things happen to him, unbreakable, as far as getting thrown out of a five-story window on his head and landing on some bricks, and then that night he was out there standing on the corner, and the people all in the projects were scared. So we had a couple of things that actually happening. During the Million Woman March, I met, which is what is now, believe it or not, my significant other or my goddess. I want to put it that way, because she done told me, you don't fuck around and don't address her as goddess. So you need to put the camera on her. I always kind of bust her out.
Go ahead.
You stand up for a minute and say, yeah. So that's my goddess, known as Linda. She used to live here. She used to dance and was connected with Sun Ra's house and the Sun Ra band, and she used to live here in Philly for a couple of years. And I met her Yeah, I met her here in Philly about 7 or 8 years ago, back at the Million Woman March, and we hooked up. We hooked up by January, March of 2004. So that's how that whole thing happened and stuff, you know. And so we got a good connection going on. You know, a straight up dictatorship. Ain't no democracy. I'm on the other end of being dictated to. So don't let the pretty face fool you. Yeah, so that whole thing, like I said, she came in and I cleaned the house thoroughly for her so she could move down from D.C. because she moved back to D.C. I cleaned the house thoroughly for her, and then she came in that Tuesday and started cleaning for 2 weeks. So I guess a man's clean is different than a woman's clean. And in so many words, and feng shui the place and stuff like that and all. So, you know, you had a whole thing going on with that and all. So this, you know, so we equipped with the feminine energy and also, like this is more of a reunion. It's more of a reunion because pretty much since 1998, I've had the ability to stop the rain in every lecture, you know, and then except today. And apparently that was for a reason. You see what I'm saying? So obviously it's for a reason. It's got something to do with something spirit. I don't know whether it be intimate or whatever. I guess that ain't no fun to buy Cece. You know what I'm saying? And all good. It look like she might have to take the financial hit, but the spirit put it the way the spirit put it. You know, so that's just the way it is. Going right along, we got a lot of things we got to cover today. So we're gonna pour some libations, and we have a lot of pictures that I've been dealing with recently, which the goddess Lakshmi, which is in so many words, we tapped into. This is when you know you tapped into a lot of the right energy. Then they talk about this. You need to get a movie called The Mist of Avalon. Everybody seen this movie, The Mist of Avalon? It's a movie with Angelica Houston. It's called The Mist of Avalon. And I got this also in some they took this from some material that is in the Arthurian mythology that was brought up by the Moors, and I think even the Greek mythology talks about this same thing, whereas there's a realm, and you'll see it in the Mist of Avalon, because that particular Avalon, believe it or not, was run by a whole bunch of women. And in that particular Mist of Avalon, they show there's a realm that you can't get into not unless your heart chakra is right, or not unless you access a certain level of the feminine energy, the feminine mysteries. And so that's the same thing happened here also when it comes to the, they call it Mabaglagan, they call it the Mist of Avalon, they also call it the Eleusinian period of Lucius, whereas that particular realm is a realm set over by the goddess. And so you have to access that particular realm, and that's the particular realm that is going on at this particular time. Let me give you an example. We know that in 2001, a lot of patriarchal, even black patriarchal, because this is the test, it has nothing to do with Europeans. That world has fallen regardless, but even the black patriarchal system that was set up started crumbling. So we had several people, and we know that it didn't have nothing to do with the government, because if you are on the path, the government can't touch you, because they rolled after me 3 days after 9/11. Well, let's see, that was 9/11, which was that Tuesday. That Saturday, they rolled after me in 9/11, and as far as they had the street filled up with police cars, and me and the sister Kimberly was on the front porch because we had just gotten back from New York, and because I was there and doing 9/11, we was on the front porch of my house, and we was like, where are all these cars coming from? I mean, it was about 30 police cars, helicopters, big vans, and they came down the street looking, and they couldn't find the house. And we were standing right on the front porch, and it was almost like it was another dimension. And so the sister, Kimberly, was like, you know they're looking for you. And they couldn't find the house, and so they got a little embarrassed, and they sped off. On December the 19th of the same year, 2001, they tried to hit again and got the whole street the wrong way. They was on the street 2 blocks over. So everybody went through some form of being step 2 or being locked down. So, you know, they knocked off Collett. They knocked off, Dr. York. You know, they arrested Dr. York, and, you know, that whole thing went down. Farrakhan just pretty much just sold out. That's why he's still sick. I mean, they had Johnny Cochran's funeral the other week, and he came, and he could barely get out of bed the week before. So that lets you know that you can't call yourself spiritual and you still sick in this game. You see what I'm saying? So he could barely get out of bed. So, and him and Jesse called a special prayer meeting for the Pope the other week. You see, a special prayer meeting. So H-Rap Brown, they killed him. They locked him down. So my point here is, but the protection was not a bunch of people standing around in suits and running their fucking mouth with machine guns. Or the protection is whether you enter that particular realm of protection, which is the bosom of the goddess. And that was the only thing that could protect somebody. You see what I'm saying? Because like I said, actually they tried to roll on me in 2000 when they had the conference with Collett and the rest of that type of thing. So there's been a whole, so the point I'm trying to make here is most of the people who are not dealing with some form of the bosom of the goddess are, in so many words, have gotten the satisfaction from the goddesses. Especially when we say public speakers, let's face it, this is a major patriarchal culture, so majority of the public speakers are male. And the ones who were able to survive had to do something, whereas the goddess said, okay then, you know, you at a certain level that you could survive, because you know, which sets up what happened to me last weekend, which I set this up, it's fresh on my mind. I got a call from a group of brothers that wanted me to come out and demonstrate Palo Manombe, which is the darker side of what is called coming from the Congo rites. It is like the underworld mysteries coming from Congo. And so they came out and they wanted me to demonstrate this Palo. So I said, well, you know, so I was like, well, look, I said, look, you got to get, I said, first of all, you're on the wrong path already. I said, you're on the wrong path already. I said, you need to get some sisters. You want me to come out? They said, no problem. So they went in and the last minute called a couple of sisters and stuff like that. And I said, well, I'll come and, you know, and I'll do some stuff and all, you know, and y'all break me off a little something. You know, so we went out and they wanted me to get into how to work some magic. And I'm like, to be honest with you, I'm here to tell you that most of that stuff, those rites of how you work all that magic don't work no more. The mystery now here is you got to come from your heart, and whatever you do is magic, because if you read that stuff in them books, it don't work no more. And I said, so I'm saying, so in so many words, I said, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and for 4 or 5 hours, I taught them how to live magically by saying, look, you can't take nothing with you. You got to be honest with yourself. It's all based on your heart chakra and how you don't lie to yourself. And I said, now, it's important that you don't lie. I said, I'm not talking moralism, because we're not talking about lying to like there's some God up in there looking down on you and you like ants. I'm talking about, no, I said, based on the science, there is a energy or a woman that sits in the middle of your heart. We'll go into this thing as we go on. And I say, you can't lie to her. I say, so it's simple. It's just like a person that's guilty. And I say, this is a science. So it got nothing to do with moralism. When the lawyer comes in and says, look, I need to know whether you're guilty or not. And although the lawyer is going to defend them, they say, now you can't tell me you're innocent and you're guilty, because I have to set up a line of argument to defend the guilty person to get a guilty person off. So this is how this thing goes. It has nothing to do with moralism. We're not judging you. It's just that I got to know what to do to get you off. So I told the people, I say, well, it's the same thing. You can't be lying. You must, in order to get this magic to work, it's got to be true, not to the omnipotent creator. It's got to be true to your own heart and your own self. I said, so this is how this thing works. And I said in the gateway to get on, and I said all of this type of stuff, and I broke down for 3, 4, 5 hours on how to work this magic, not with a whole bunch of hocus pocus. They wanted me to basically teach them some spells and all that. I'm like, that stuff don't work no more. I said, that don't work no more. I said, I'm trying to tell you how you're going to get this thing. I said, because it's a mindset. I said, we're talking about the goddess of prosperity, which is the goddess Lakshmi, which is the goddess of prosperity, which is the goddess Lakshmi, which is the one that permeates the scene since June the 6th, June 666, June the 6th, the Venus crossed the sun. When Venus crossed the sun, the new Venus arose. And I knew it, so it came as the goddess Lakshmi. This is one of the golden color. She has several ones, and we also have the actual pictures here. And I said, so we actually have other pictures for sale for the people that's interested. But I said, this is the new energy that is on the scene. This is one coming from a small museum in France. A small museum in France that they hide a lot of stuff from. So I told them, look, in order to do this, you have to be true, because she is the form of Maya. I said when we say Maya, I said those Egyptian words are mostly generic terms. They're so old until they don't really work anymore. But the generic terms is you learn the principles, but until the actual goddess shows up with the energy. And they said, well, how do you know she's the one? I said, that's the motherfucker showed up. You know, I wasn't looking for her. She just showed up. You see what I'm saying? I did a lecture called Lakshmi Return to the 108 Gate on October the 16th. Little did I know that the same day they have a festival to her in East India, or in India. I chose October the 16th, because it was the day of El Cristo Negro, which is Apollo deity, which is the crucified black Christ or Osiris, that we found out there's a festival to him every year in Puerto Rico. So I did the ritual based on that, the lecture in Atlanta based on that, and I didn't know until 2 weeks ago that was in October the 16th of 2004. I didn't know until 2 weeks ago that was actually her day. So I said, oh, but right after that, in October, she started showing up. So make a long story short, we'll get back into that. I told him, I said, look, if you're going to make this stuff happen, you must tell the truth. So we went through this long, elaborate aspect that they paid me to show them how to deal with magic. And I think it was, and so at the end, we noticed that all of them was upset. And I'm like, I just told you what works. And it wasn't until the next morning till we found out what happened. What had happened is Dr. York called a group of his followers in Atlanta, because he's down there, you know, he's locked up in Georgia, and told these brothers to come get me to teach them with some Apollo ritual to get him out of prison. But he told them not to tell me that it was him. And so they pretended that they was interested in it as a group. They wanted to get to the next level. And that day when I broke all this stuff about the heart chakra and all this stuff and what was going to happen, they was upset because they wasn't going to be able to take no ritual back to Dr. York and report on some stuff that's going to get him out of prison. And I could have told them from the get-go. I could have saved them a whole lot of time and money by saying, hey, this nigga can't get out of prison based on stuff like that, because it's all based on what you do to the gods or what you do to the goddess. And if you're running some bullshit, you see, and don't understand that if you wasn't right in the first place, that's what locked you up in the first place. So And so I said, so he could have told me this from the get-go. So they were upset because they weren't interested in magic for themselves. They were only interested in magic to get Dr. York out so that they can continue following Dr. York. You see what I'm saying? Dr. York. And I said, see, so my point here is just to show you how this particular thing worked. Now, the thing with the Pope, and I want to do this and I'm going to go into a libation. The thing that happened with Pope John Paul is that anytime you get one of the great archetypes of the male domination or the ruling empire topple it, that's a good day for us because we know that the papacy sanctioned slavery. We know that half the things in which holds down the spirit world, or which was the ancient world, came out of Rome when they made religion or spirituality, no, they made indoctrination or religion a ward of the state, some form of fascism, and went around the world. And you go all over this planet, there's Catholicism all over the world. That's a form of fascist domination. And so we know when we have this type of thing going on, that it's a great day for us. Now I want to play something for you that's spiritual, just to show you, for you people that's all caught up in the everybody's everybody and we are the world, and people that can't get it in their head that in actuality, whenever you pray, there is no arms of Christian soldiers around the world. You on your damn own, because the people who gave you this are for ruling. A sister sent me this, a sister named Sandra sent me this from Los Angeles. This guy is by the name Brother Andre, and he's an expert on the pontiff or the papacy or the Vatican. This is a brother. And so she said, let me send it. I said, well, let me listen to this thing and see what it is. Because I said, I already know about the ruling, but when he first comes on, he's going to start reading something from the Conference of Trent. You know, you had the Conference of Nicaea. There was 8 conferences. This is the Conference of Trent that establishes the bylaws for the Pope. And I want you to hear this thing. And in so many words, 2 things. When you hear this, it goes to show you the mindset of the people that's ruling over you. And number 2, everything they're saying about him, you need to be applying to yourself. But I really want you to hear these people we're dealing with. So I'm going to put this on and let you hear this.
According to their own decrees of the Council of Trent from 1540,
Can you hear it?
1545 was when the decrees of the Council of Trent were issued by the Vatican. I'd just like to read one paragraph from the decrees of the Council of Trent, if you don't mind. It reads, quote, "The Pope is immaculate, infallible, and irresponsible to any earthly tribunal or power. He is judge of all, can be judged by none, kings, priests, nor people. He is free from all laws, so that he cannot incur any sentence or penalty for any crime. He is all in all and above all, so that God and the Pope, the vicar of God, are but one. Wherefore the Pope hath power to abrogate laws, to dispense all things in regards to marriage, usury, divorce, homicide, perjury. He hath all power on earth, purgatory, heaven, and hell, to bind, loose, command, permit, dispense, do, and undo. Therefore, it is declared to stand upon necessity of salvation, that every human creature be subject to the Roman Pontiff. All temporal power are his. The dominion, jurisdiction, and government of the whole earth is his divine right. All rulers of the earth are his subjects and must submit to him. To his infallibility in the spiritual order and absolute sovereignty in the temporal are synonymous and convertible terms." That's just a little bit of the rhetoric from the decrees of the Council of Trent. So we can see here that the Pope basically has set himself up not as really as the vicar of God or representative of God on earth, but he has set himself up as God himself.
But wait a minute now. It sounds like he's the man next to God. Now, do the other countries have to abide by this? Do they have to respect this?
Well, every president since LBJ has had to go and have an audience with the Pope. And if you read your Bible, I believe in the 18th chapter of Revelations, the 17th and 18th chapters of Revelations, it talks about the great harlot committing fornication with the kings of the earth. You know, anytime, you know, when we think about fornication,
now, you know, he's dealing with that, trying to locate that in the Bible, but understanding here, what this says here is this guy, the Pope, and I don't want to hear no shit about Pope John Paul being a good man. I even heard some conscious niggas say this stuff. Now, he did take the Black Madonna child from Poland and set it up, you know, in the Vatican. He prayed to that, but that's just basically a ritual. You understand what I'm saying? That they use in some kind of way if they're going to rule in the sovereign power. Even they know that they got to bow down to the goddess. But the point I'm trying to make here is they're saying that this cat is infallible to not only the people on earth, but the cosmos. He's above God. They say he is God himself. Now, you must understand here, this is not a group of people that are saying that this is just a ritual that we use where we have to set ourselves up to be like that. It doesn't really mean this way. What they mean is that, remember now, these are the Romans. These are murderers that did nothing but kill people. So naturally, if the Romans are going to go into some form of religion, you see, a modern day religion, that it would be a religion to do just that. Keep the Roman Empire going through the state of some type of fascist religious regime. You see what I'm saying? So, like John Henry Clark said, male chauvinist murderous cults. So you got to look at the mentality here on how the people around the world are the subjects, and try to understand that they're just, this guy here, his brother Andre, he wrote a book called something. He wrote a book on the Federal Reserve and stuff. But anyway, for the people that's interested, I pass out some things. You can get this. I can take these for you down in Atlanta, and you can get a copy of this particular cassette that the sister was so happy to grace us with. What's that? Brother Barsisi. He has it here in Philly, so you can get with Brother Barsisi to get a copy of that. Of that cassette. He got a high-speed double, right? You know, so he's the man, you know, that you can get a copy of this particular thing from. Because they go on and on. Whereas this guy is saying that if you look at any cathedral of Catholicism in Europe and America, they are rich. They are the richest group of religious organization on the planet. But if you go to any place in what they call the developing countries, you know, other than the third world, the developing countries, or what they would call our countries, you will find out that the places where the Africans and all of them go, it might be a little rundown shack that they call the cathedral or whatever, and might have one little cross on the wall. It's very humble, although they have the biggest basilica on the planet is in Nigeria, Africa, and that's set up there to mess people's minds up. But they were saying in Latin America, Brazil, and all over the country, when you go and stuff, it's the poorest, wretched state you can find is the Catholic Church. But yet in Europe, and white folks, it is the richest. They said, and he goes on to say that they could, if they just sold the paintings from the Vatican, they wouldn't have to even dip into their bank accounts. If they just sold the paintings, they said that if they just sold the paintings from the Vatican, that they could outfit the wealth of every African and indigenous nation of Catholics on the planet. It can literally set them up, damn near sovereign. just by studying the paintings of the Vatican. So he's going into this particular rulership. So in so many words, we know that on one hand, just like 2000, when the church started falling, where all of a sudden in 2000 and 2001, all these priests started getting exposed, being fuckboys and doing these these people over the years. That's one flow. The other one culminates into the death of this particular cracker here, because you got to understand that's a major event whenever you have one of those type of people die. The other part is this. Now that's the flip side, which in so many words is the actual answer to this thing. They finished. But let's look at the side in which the New World Order and the governments of the world are what we call the ruling powers thing, which is a different side. Because they said that Pope John Paul, in his brand of Catholicism, was to lull the people to sleep into the love of him. But when you get into what's coming now, the gloves are off. Now we know that the new one is a German Nazi, and he had to be a child. He had to be in the Hitler's youth. Right. There's a reason.
Right. Mindset.
Get the movie Soldier with Kurt Russell and understand how they got it. In order for it to be a Christ figure, it has to have something to do with his childhood on into adult. And by him being a part of Hitler's youth sets up one thing, and this is what you must understand. If you get documentaries on the rise and fall of the Third Reich, and you understand the occult significance of the Thule Society and the Vril Society and the occult significance, you will understand something greater. Now this is what this thing is all about. In their doctrine, they talked about the Third Reich going of the future. So, not the World War II shit. You understand what I'm saying? That was just an occult summit. You see what I'm saying? And every now and then these crackers got to have a war. Just like Iraq. So that's, the war is to throw people off. You see. But the protocols of the occult manifesto of what they want to be in the future is what they was working towards. And that's what we're talking about here. The Third Reich occult manifesto said that we were looking to take the Third Reich of these Nazis, or the Thule Society of the Third Reich, will be in a position in the future to reign 1,000 years. And they talked about how they were going to go into the millennium, and they were going to reign 1,000 years based on this Aryan, which I don't want to get the original Aryans because that was black people, but based on this master race. Based on this master race that will reign 1,000 years into the future, into the millennium. Now, based on, if you get a lot of the documentaries, and I had some of this shit in the 90s, but my tape got mildewed, and I had to throw away the 300 tapes that I recorded off of cable. But don't worry about it, because see, History Channel, History International, it might as well be called a World War II channel. Because every damn time I turn on the TV, I just see some fucking tanks rolling down the street. So these crackers, they talk about history, but their history is based on World War II. They got so bold until they put out a Discovery Times channel, and it's all about World War II. And then they just got so bold until a month, 2 months ago, they just said, fuck it, we're going to put the military channel out. So we're not going to, that's what we're about. Gang warfare. That's what even your boy said that. You don't understand nothing, even your boy, Dr. Africa. You don't understand that this man is a warfare machine. And everything he does, even down to what you eat, and everything is based on a warfare machine. And he thinks about this stuff all the time. You see, and that whole thing of when we sleeping, they're awake. Even Johnny Cochran couldn't understand, you see, that whenever he won that case 10 years ago, see, I always do it on a cycle. He won the case in 95, 2005, he dead. It's a cycle. You see what I'm saying? That his days was numbered, not unless he got with some real spiritual knowledge, but too often, you see what I'm saying? Those people, the ones that are raised up by this society, end up getting caught in this society because they in actuality think that they are based on their marriage because they burnt some midnight oil. You see what I'm saying?
That's right.
So that's one thing. We'll get into that in a few minutes. But going back, they talked about the reign of 1,000 years in the future. So this installment of a pope that was one of Hitler's. See, when you say Hitler's youth, you thought you got interrupted. They got interrupted. They didn't. They just went underground. Look, go and look any movie, any of the movies. Go get back and get the movie Starship Troopers. Most people don't like that movie, but that movie has so much in it just on the dress. And if you look at that movie, Demolition Man, and look at the police outfits, there's never a movie that comes on in the future where they don't have on Nazi regalia. Most of all the uniforms are Nazi. Starship Troopers, all of them. If you just look at the police department in Demolition Man, you know, there's never a time, and you just get younger and younger each time. This sister right here, behind you, Delilah. Like, goddamn, right, you. It's almost like some type of metamorphosis or something this reversing, which is interesting here because I got this piece I want to show y'all. Yeah, it's like some stuff that's getting metamorphosizing and stuff. You know, but which is interesting. I say that because I got something to show you in a few minutes when we get into this lecture. But going back, when you talk about this future, and you look at the dress, and they probably got about 10 or 15 movies out about the future and them ruling, and every time they got on Nazi regalia. I'm saying that because this is key, because they're talking about these Nazis ruling in the future, and now that's why the Hitler Youth had to come up. And they didn't have not one cracker Jew opposing. Now they're getting ready to do this law where they're going to strike down this whole America. You got to be from America to be president. And then Arnold Schwarzenegger. You see what I'm saying? Who admitted in 2003 that his father was a part of the SS and that he was proud of Hitler. You understand what I'm saying? Now the Jews are not going to say anything about it because they understand the reason why they reign in Israel is because what they set up in World War II to give them an excuse, you see what I'm saying? To rule over some people, because that was a Jewish inception from the beginning, from the early 1900s. But you must understand this particular mentality on how they're doing this stuff, and that's what their new aspect. Now, the time is out for that.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And I say that the time is out for that, but I want to put a certain amount of things because we are making a video for the people that's outside of this room. But you see what I'm saying? So there's a certain amount of things we got to deal with. But it's just interesting here. This tape talks about the Pope being set up as God. And whoever sits in that seat is God. Then you have the whole Hitler thing saying that the Third Reich, you understand what I'm saying? The Third Reich will reign in the future. So now you have the ultimate aspect of the Third Reich not being an adult. Hitler and them, there was not a Third Reich at first. They established a Third Reich, but to bring a child up under that. And they grow up with this over the years. That means that they become the manifestation of the final solution or the final product of it. So as a result, if this tape is saying that he's set up as God, and they put him on the actual throne. And now remember now, He's not like Pope John Paul. This cracker has got a book that is selling like crazy that he wrote a couple of years ago. And his book is his ideas. That's his manifesto. Just like Mein Kampf that Hitler had. So this guy is coming with his own Bible.
Oh, shit.
You see what I'm saying? He's coming with his own Bible. And although it might be hidden up under this so-called Christianity, you see what I'm saying? This thing is all set up for them for world domination. You see what I'm saying? World domination. And that's what this whole thing is about. And it was either the African versus the Nazi, and they chose the Nazi. You see what I'm saying? But then again, on the other hand, it's just like the Johnny Cochran thing. The Africans don't fare no better, or nobody else that's black. They find themselves being created by these Europeans. You see what I'm saying? This leads to the whole Johnny Cochran thing, which is interesting today because this is one of the keys. Because what we're finding out here is certain things that went on in the past 15 years, now we got clear evidence on how they was able to pull it off. And the Johnny Cochran thing that went down was one of those particular scenarios, whereas he goes in the hospital, they implant him, and then after implanting him, they send a signal through his cell phone, and the cell phone gives the brain tumor and takes him out, or what they call a brain tumor, or a hemorrhage, you see what I'm saying, or aneurysm or whatever. So they set him up this particular way for the simple fact he too did not understand the ramifications of what had happened 10 years ago. You see, so his days was numbered in that particular aspect. So basically they implanted him and then just wait till a certain time based on a ritual. Somebody need to get the time, the day, or the time. Well, let's put it this particular way. We know that this thing happened because the brother Azariah, they call him Azazel, from New York, did a tape before Christmas. I think he did this tape sometime in September or October. And we got the tape, and on that tape, he talked about Johnny Cochran being in trouble, something with his brain. Now, he talked about this, and we got it on tape, and I think the tape was done, in October or something like that, of Johnny Cochran being in trouble. You see what I'm saying? So they set this whole thing up. You see, they set this whole thing up and all, and the problem here is, by him not knowing what time it was, he should supposed to have gone damn near in hiding, you see, instead of becoming more and more mainstream. You see, so basically the same thing again. They took him out because he didn't know what was going down, which is interesting. What's that?
Now, Condoleezza Rice, when she got hired, they gave her this, so that she got to check her for ovarian cancer and stuff. Something like that.
So the thing about Condoleezza Rice is, it's a major ritual going on. Now, one, I don't want you to look at this thing as Democrat and Republican. Condoleezza Rice, even spiritually, is no joke.
No.
Now, I'm going to tell you why. Condoleezza Rice, believe it or not, they don't see, now if they're going to see, let's put it this way. When they do some stuff with them, they know that it's based on falsehood, and they got to do some rituals behind it, but they know ultimately they're not the authentic thing.
Right.
When they chose her to be the world queen,
I see.
they didn't, so I want you to look at this. They didn't do it on a falsehood base. They did it because they checked her energy. And they understand that they had to come right, because you must understand this about her. So I want you to get out of the whole Republican Democrat shit. That's just a role.
Right.
That's just the worldwide wrestling. You take this side and you take that side.
That's right.
But you must understand why they would set her up. Number one, this woman was, what, a couple of minutes off from being one of the children that got blew up in the Alabama bombing. You know, the 4 girls that got blew up? She was supposed to be one of those girls up in there, but she was late. See what I'm saying? So that means the government looks at this and they tracked this particular person all her life, and certain opportunities was awarded for her to be set up in the position that she's in right now.
So she was groomed.
Huh?
She was technically groomed for the position.
Not only was she groomed, this is the key where they fucked up on that. Only thing we needed to know, because she is collie in the particular aspect of a certain energy. Because every time if you notice, when she go up, twice when they had her on the hot seat, and she sat down before Congress, she whipped ass. She came out and she whipped ass. So the only thing we needed to know, well, one thing, and I would figure that it would be this, because they are playing to win now. Now, don't worry about it, because it's our energy. I'm going to show you. So the only thing I needed to know, was this woman a clone, or was she the real deal? So it don't matter on how she's playing the game or thinking one way and how they have her set up. If she has a soul, that's ours. So in so many words, it's almost like playing with fire and getting burned. You exalting a certain person because you're trying to save your ass, and although you think you're working for her, but in the spirit world they're saying, that's the worst thing you shouldn't have done. It's like, God damn it, you know I'm a snake. You see what I'm saying? So why you trusted me in the first place? In this particular case, as far as the energy, they fucked up with her. You see what I'm saying? Because that energy, because it's a soul, it's working for our side. Doesn't matter what the road down here. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's the soul, it's ours. So that's a whole other thing that's going on that, which is key, because they told Jimmy Carter, motherfucker, we ain't got no room for you. When it was time for to go over to bury the Pope. But she went. Had a new hairdo and everything. If you notice, she had, she had the little humble looking outfits and stuff, but if you notice, as soon as she became Secretary of State, even her appearance went to a whole nother level. See what I'm saying? She broke out in all red one day, and a week after becoming Secretary of State, the first thing they did is they sent her to England. She had to meet with the rulers, the real rulers. And she went over there, and the first thing she did when they came out, they tried to jump on her, and she was so awesome until she shot them down and got in their ass right off the bat, and then they started coming with respect for Miss Rice. You see what I'm saying? So they got, it's like a warrior type that the government think they got for them, they got for us. Because remember now, your boy was Secretary of State, Colin Powell, and they said he was the least traveled. And they said but her, they're going to make her the most traveled. As a matter of fact, I don't even think she's been in the country but a few damn days. You see, so in so many words, this is their banner. It's almost say in order for us to line up with this goddess energy, we have to put the black woman, exalt her. You see what I'm saying? So you got to understand the ritual behind it, because they don't look at what you think personally, because none of that shit exists. Because Democrat or Republican or none of that policy exists. You only got to look at this thing on the energy level, which in this particular case, we done checked it on the spirit realm. They was like, oh no, they done fucked up. You see what I'm saying? That's one of our pit bulls. You see. And she don't have to know what's going on. Has nothing to do with what she knows. It has something to do with the position and what they're doing. And then again, on the other hand, we understand the symbol and the image of this particular energy. You see what I'm saying? So it's very key on how you dealing with that. Let's go into some libations right quick. Get the images there, and because we got a lot to cover in a short period of time. So let's give them they shout out. Get them their shout out, and move right along. Now let's see where in the hell did I put stuff? Okay, here we go. Yeah. Y'all all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty much, I can say that the realm of what I've been dealing in, and especially this come of age is, and I can tell the difference now in retrospect of dealing with what was more on the scholastic level of the 90s, and like I said, was a lot of work to be done of the 90s, and then the millennium comes in, and pretty much the realm became more of a hands-on experience.